Has you ever wondered if there's more to our planet than meets the eye? What if everything we think we know about Earth is just the outer shell, hiding something, well, far more mysterious? Today, we're taking a deep dive into an idea that's really captivated curious minds for centuries. It's the fascinating, though, yeah, pretty controversial concept of a hollow Earth, and, even more astonishing, claims of an advanced inner civilization living there.
Right, and our sources for this, well, they're quite something. We're looking at some intriguing interpretations of satellite imagery, for one. Then there's this unique new physics theory about how planets actually form. And perhaps most compellingly, a highly unusual military report, one that was apparently kept secret for a long time. So, yeah, these aren't your standard geology textbooks. They definitely challenge the status quo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our mission, as always, is to unpack these really quite wild claims. We want to pull out the most compelling bits of knowledge, the most insightful nuggets, and then leave you to ponder what might genuinely lie beneath the surface. Get ready, this might just turn your understanding of Earth inside out. Okay, let's unpack this. So the core idea starts with this claim, right? That for several years, scientists supposedly kept secret some uh, pretty shocking data from space photos of Earth. These images apparently clearly showed a huge hole in the ice,
Yeah.
a massive
Yeah.
hole. And the sources say it gets even stranger because apparently a similar hole, almost identical, was then spotted on Venus, which, if true, would naturally make astronomers wonder, are these planets hollow? What's actually in the core if it's not what we think? It challenges the standard model, basically.
It really does. And that ties into this theory you mentioned from the Russian physicist Fedorlin, his new physics. It offers a completely different explanation for Earth's birth, doesn't it? Radically different. I mean, the conventional view is planets form slowly, accretion, gravity, dense core, molten maybe. But Federlin, according to these sources, had this other idea. He thought Earth started as a huge, cold lump just wandering in space.
Cold, okay.
Yeah, cold. Then the sun's influence, cosmic energy, whatever, it heats it up intensely,
Hmm.
turns it into lava. Then it starts cooling, forming a crust on the outside, like you'd expect.
Wait, okay, that part sounds somewhat familiar.
But here's the twist. Federlin believed the material under that crust kept boiling, didn't solidify, it actually turned into gas.
Gas inside the Earth.
That's the theory. And gas, when heated, expands, right? So he figured it created this huge hollow space right in the planet's core, like a massive bubble forming inside.
Wow, so like a pressure cooker situation.
Exactly. And he theorized this pressure built up so much that there are these huge gas expulsion events, basically massive blowouts, one at the North Pole, one at the South Pole, creating these deep, large holes that theoretically we could still see. It's a pretty dramatic formation story.
Very dramatic. So Federlin's conclusion wasn't just a different formation, it was Earth is hollow.
Absolutely hollow inside. That's the quote used in the source. A total departure from the solid or molten core model. And get this, he even suggested it could have its own small sun inside that hollow space.
A sun inside the Earth. How?
Well, his idea was that energy from our sun, our external sun, somehow penetrates through those polar holes and it accumulates down in the center, forming this internal light and heat source. I mean, it just fundamentally rewrites everything: gravity, heat, even the potential for life.
Which brings us to the next logical step, I suppose. If you accept that premise, a hollow Earth, its own internal sun, then the possibility of life inside the Earth suddenly doesn't seem so impossible.
Exactly. It opens up quite literally a whole new world of possibilities. You'd have to completely rethink habitable zones and where life could thrive.
And this is where that military report comes in, right? The one that was kept secret. It supposedly confirms this idea, indirectly at least, from a high-ranking American commander, Vice Admiral Richard Byrd.
That's the one. Vice Admiral Richard Byrd of the U.S. Navy. The account claims this happened back in 1947. He was on a research flight over the North Pole, supposedly routine, but it turned into something else entirely.
What did he report seeing?
Well, as he got near the pole, he noticed this unusual spot, colored weirdly yellow, red, violet mix. Flew closer, saw what looked like a mountain chain. Okay, maybe unusual, but possible. But then, flying over it, his first thought was mirage. But it persisted. He saw vast forests, rivers.
Forests at the North Pole.
Lush forests, rivers, meadows, and animals. Animals that, according to the report, resembled mammoths.
Mammoths. Wow. Okay. What else?
He also reported seeing weird flying machines, unlike anything known at the time. And then a city with buildings apparently made from rock crystal, shimmering. That's when, the sources claim, he realized he was like a second Columbus, discovering a hidden continent.
That's quite a discovery. But
Yeah.
what about the conditions? It's the North Pole.
Right, and this is maybe the most baffling part. The outside air thermometer, which should have been, freezing, started climbing and stopped at plus 23 degrees Celsius. That's what, 73 Fahrenheit? The source just flat out says this was impossible for the North Pole.
Impossible. And his radio.
Didn't work, cut off completely from his base. Just silence. And then there's this detail, supposedly from Byrd's wife, who apparently read his flight log or diary. She apparently said the vice admiral actually contacted representatives of an underground civilization.
He made contact. So it wasn't just seeing things, it was interaction.
That's the claim, an actual encounter.
So what were these inner Earth people like, according to the report?
Well, they resemble people in appearance, but more beautiful, apparently, with a look of spirituality. And technologically, way ahead. The report says they had overtaken us by 1,000 years of development.
1,000 years. What else?
Crucially, they had no wars. Suggests a very different kind of society, doesn't it? They'd also found new energy sources, allowed them to power vehicles, get food, light, from nothing, the report says. Almost like free energy.
Okay, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Did they say anything to Byrd? A message?
Yes, and this is key. They told Byrd they had tried to contact us, the outer surface people, many times before, but their attempts were rejected. Sometimes violently, their flying machines were shot at. So they decided they would only step in to assist humanity when they will be on the brink of self-destruction.
Wow. A conditional offer of help only at the very last moment.
Pretty much. And then, the report says, after showing Byrd their civilization, their achievements, they escorted him back to the polar hole, let him out into our outer world.
And when he got back,
Another anomaly. His plane had somehow used fuel for an extra 2,750 kilometers of flight, way beyond its expected range, which just adds another layer of mystery to the whole thing.
and the aftermath for Byrd himself.
Stark. The authorities, it's claimed, recommended, you can imagine what that means, recommended he never tell anyone about what he saw, placed him under strict control for the rest of his life.
So a complete cover-up, essentially, if the story is true.
That's the implication, which, raises huge questions. Why suppress something so monumental? What does it say about our readiness for such a revelation? The alleged cover-up itself is almost as fascinating as the journey described.
It really is an incredible report. The temperature change, the advanced civilization, the message, the suppression. It's a lot. What really stands out, I think, is that theme of controlling information, hiding things deemed impossible. We see that recurring in these kinds of accounts, don't we?
Definitely. It makes you wonder how much is really kept under wraps.
Okay, so let's shift focus a bit. Let's look at the poles themselves, the physical locations where Byrd's journey supposedly began. Our sources mention this difficulty in finding clear imagery, right, of the actual true North or South Pole.
Yeah, the claim is you can't find any imagery. That's totally clear. That there's always some kind of brushing or just a big black hole they put there. Basically alleging deliberate obfuscation in official satellite photos.
And they cite specific examples.
They do. There's mention of a rare photo, maybe linked to a researcher named Alex Collier. Also scans from a book, Violent Universe, by the BBC's Nigel Calder from way back in 1969. More recently, they claim that latest pictures provided by an infrared satellite show that the heat signature at the North Pole is quite astounding, implying unexplained heat from below.
Heat again. Interesting. What about the South Pole?
Even more specific claims there. They cite 3D radar pictures from a European satellite, ESR, taken in 1992. These pictures allegedly give a clue of the enormous gap in the South Pole. How enormous. 13 of the continent, swallowing almost all the 18th parallel in the Ross Dependency area.
A gap covering 1/3 of Antarctica. That's massive.
Huge. And they claim this data also suggests that major mountain chains, they list a whole bunch. Royal Society, Worcester, Britannia, Churchill, Queen Elizabeth, and so on, are actually pushed over against Queen Maud Land, making them 870 miles away from what is shown on the official maps. A massive geographical discrepancy.
870 miles. That's extraordinary. But is there a counter-explanation offered?
Yes, and it's important to include this. The sources themselves point out the official limitation of that satellite data. They state, the pictures produced by ESR-1 are showing officially the Iceland contours up to 81.5 degrees of south latitude, meaning the satellite didn't cover the absolute pole. So they continue, it is reasonable to assume that the hole shape shown results from the lack of coverage of the satellite.
Ah, okay. So what looks like a giant hole might just be missing data, an artifact of the satellite's orbit.
Precisely. Satellite orbits often converge at the poles, leaving gaps in coverage. So it could just be an artifact of how the data was collected or stitched together. It raises that crucial question. Are we seeing a real anomaly or just the limits of our observation tools?
Right. What about other odd things at the poles? The sources mention the ozone hole, don't they?
They do. They ask about the ozone hole over the South Pole, questioning this inward motion, presumably of atmosphere or energy, and they link it, saying it fits the 3D radar picture shown above, trying to connect different phenomena, perhaps.
Interesting connection. And then there's this oasis,
Yeah.
the Bingaro Oasis.
Yeah, another fascinating Antarctic anomaly. This was reported back in March 1960 in a French science magazine, Science and V. It described this place near the Ross Sea, a 500 square kilometer area, completely ice-free.
Ice-free in Antarctica. What was the temperature like?
Astonishingly warm, an average temperature of more than 25 degrees C. That's warmer than a pleasant summer day in many places. It supposedly had lakes, springs, even vegetation and birds, a little pocket of warmth in the deep freeze.
Did they explain it?
Well, the magazine reported the scientists' explanation at the time. They said mountains to the south blocked the wind and held back ice, and the ocean to the north had a softening effect. Basically, local geographical and meteorological factors.
Okay, sounds plausible on the surface. But the sources critique this.
Vigorously. They ask, how can mountains and ocean effects explain a temperature difference of more than 100 degrees C? They point out the surrounding area hits record lows, like minus 86.7 Celsius, with averages around minus 50 C. Compared to that, the oasis temperature of plus 25 C is like boiling water, relatively speaking. It's a huge thermal gradient.
That does seem like a massive difference for just wind and water moderation to explain.
It really stretches credulity based on conventional meteorology, according to the critique. It strongly suggests some other localized heat source might be involved.
And there's one more detail about this oasis.
Yes, the source adds rather pointedly that the Bingaro Oasis is very well surrounded by U.S. military bases.
Which adds another layer of intrigue. Why so much interest in that specific warm spot?
Exactly. Is it just scientific curiosity, or is there something more sensitive being monitored or protected there?
And finally, just circling back to the imagery. The sources claim official views, like from the Clementine satellite of the Arctic, are basically doctored.
Yeah, they dismiss them as a lovely, overlaid, touched official view, thanks to Photoshop, implying deliberate manipulation to hide whatever might actually be at the poles. It reinforces that whole narrative of concealment around these regions.
So after exploring all this, what does it all mean for how we understand our planet, its deepest secrets? We've covered a lot of ground, or perhaps underground.
We really have. We've looked at this new physics idea, the hollow Earth, a radical departure from standard planetary science. We dove into Vice Admiral Byrd's incredible, almost unbelievable story, the hidden civilization, the message, the alleged suppression, and we examined these oddities at the poles, the imagery debates, the heat signatures, the Bingaro Oasis, alongside the official explanations and the critiques. It's really a journey into the deeply unknown, challenging what we accept as established fact.
It absolutely invites you, the listener, to question what we're told, doesn't it? To look deeper, consider possibilities that seem, well, completely out there. It certainly fires up the imagination, makes you rethink the very ground beneath your feet.
And it brings up a really important point for today, I think. In this age of, information overload, conflicting narratives, how do we critically evaluate these kinds of things? Compelling theories, extraordinary claims, official stories, alleged cover-ups. How do you sort through it all? Distinguish genuine anomalies from wishful thinking or misinterpretations? It's tough.
It really is. And here's a final thought for you to mull over, stemming from Byrd's alleged encounter. Given those claims of an advanced inner-Earth civilization, one that apparently intends to help only when humanity is on the brink of self-destruction, what kind of help do you think they'd offer if that moment came? And maybe more importantly, considering where we are now, would we, as a species, even be ready to receive that help? Or would our own divisions and skepticism get in the way?